Imagine waking up one morning to discover you are now a citizen of a country created entirely by mistake. Not born from war, not carved out by some grand revolution, just a total accident. Welcome to Cospaia, a country so small that if you sneezed too hard while crossing it, you'd probably end up abroad. And yet, it managed to stay independent for almost 400 years. And it was born simply because two educated and respected officials couldn't read the map properly. The year is 1440, Europe is a hot mess, same as always, and the Pope Eugene IV is fighting with the Council of Basel, which was basically a gathering of bishops trying to limit the Pope's power. This fight was bleeding Pope's influence, and more importantly, his money. So like any self-respecting medieval ruler with zero liquid assets, the Pope borrows 25,000 gold florins from Cosimo de' Medici. Yes, that Medici with seemingly endless pockets. And in return, hands over the town of San Sepolcro and surrounding land. Nice and simple, just sign here. Where will be the new border? Oh, it will follow the stream called Rio. Except there are two streams called Rio. Both small, both unremarkable, both feeding into the Tiber. Locals knew them as Gorgazia and Riascona, but the learned men from Vatican and Florence didn't. So when the papal side looked at the map, they picked the south one. The Florentines, they picked the north one. And somehow, nobody noticed an unclaimed strip of land, about 2.5 kilometers long, 500 meters wide. A tiny farming village became no one's land, and the name of this village was Cospaia. Now, here's the beautiful part. The people of Cospaia didn't panic. They didn't call for help, they didn't wait to be claimed. They looked around, realized no one owned them, and declared themselves independent. Just like that. No anthem, no manifesto, just a unanimous decision by a few hundred farmers who suddenly had no lord to answer to. One day they were peasants, the next, founders of a country. Florence and the Papal States, well, they noticed eventually, but since both parties had much bigger problems and Cospaia was so tiny, both sides looked at each other, sighed and said forget it. And honestly, a tiny neutral strip between their territories could be quite useful. For Cospaia, it was a blessing. No taxes, no lords, no one telling them what they could grow, sell or think. Just a tight-knit community with nothing to lose and no one to obey. They carved their motto over the church door, Perpetual et firma libertas, perpetual and steadfast freedom. And, as we'll see, those weren't just pretty words carved in stone. For about 100 years, Cospaia, while being one of the most interesting works of the century, quietly faded from outside attention. This tiny, seemingly insignificant republic might have vanished entirely from history's pages if not for a curious twist of fate. The year was 1574. Bishop Alfonso Tornabuoni of San Sepolcro, a town already familiar to us, received an unusual gift from his nephew, who was papal envoy in Paris. This gift was neither gold, nor a relic from the New World, nor yet another holy nail from the cross of Jesus. Instead, it was tobacco seeds. Being very new and exotic plant, tobacco became a sensation all across Europe, partially due to the strange belief that it could protect almost from any disease, including the plague itself. Now, for reasons lost to history, perhaps caution, perhaps curiosity about his odd neighbors, Bishop Tornabuoni didn't plant these wonder seeds in his hometown. Instead, he passed them along to the villagers of Cospaia. Whatever his motives, this decision made Cospaia the first, and for a long time, the only place in Italy where tobacco was cultivated. The Cospaiasi quickly realized both the buzz and the lucrative potential of this crop. Before long, fields once dedicated to beans, wheat and other mundane crops were almost entirely replanted with tobacco. And in a republic with absolutely zero financial oversight, remember no taxes, no duties and no regulations, the tobacco trade, for a lack of a better word, essentially exploded. Word of this tax-free tobacco heaven spread far and wide. Cospaia began attracting two distinct groups. First came legitimate merchants. Traders from Genoa, Livorno, Naples, and elsewhere. They saw a golden opportunity setting up warehouses and trade routes, using the Republic as a tariff-free zone to store and move goods. Jewish traders, often excluded from full participation in commerce elsewhere, found Cospaia a rare haven, a place with no restrictions, no guilds, and no inquisitorial oversight. The second group? Smugglers, of course. With its non-existent border controls, proximity to river and surrounding hills, Cospaia was practically designed for illicit trade. During the day, local farmers casually hid valuable stuff like silk or tobacco under loads of beans or hay and rolled past checkpoints without blinking an eye. At night, especially when there was no moon, villagers formed quiet convoys of 2 or 3 wagons, covered the cargo with canvas, and carefully moved along back roads, always ready to vanish if patrols showed up. When wagons weren't practical, strong locals carried heavy packs through hidden paths in the hills or floated barrels quietly down the river before sunrise. Sure, border guards noticed it was their job after all, but they were often outnumbered, confused, or simply bribed to look the other way. The smuggling only intensified after 1642, when Pope Urban VIII banned tobacco in churches and holy places, inadvertently boosting demand for Cospaia's freely grown rebellious harvest. All this brought not only money to the Republic, but also attention, and not the good kind. But for now, these were undoubtedly the Republic's golden years, and it all happened without any formal government. Cospaia had no constitution, no legal code, no military, no civil service. It all ran on pure community management. When issues arose, the Council of Elders, basically 14 oldest, most respected dads in town, would meet, talk things through, and decide what to do. Once a name in that circle carried particular weight: Valenti. 3 successive heads, Matteo, his son Francesco, and the brothers Lorenzo and Angelo, made a habit of listening first, speaking last, and never favoring kin. After 2 centuries of that consistency, a simple "let a Valenti speak" was enough to cool tempers. No charter said so, but long memory turned the name itself into a quiet referee's bell. The one and only ultimate punishment that Republic threatened to impose on anyone causing a lot of troubles was exile. Kicked out of the Republic, the offender would suddenly face the taxes, conscription, and restrictions of the outside world, a destiny almost equal to exile from paradise. Considering that there are no records of exile were ever found, the one might believe that the sheer fear of such destiny was quite effective in its own right. This simple and grounded approach was everywhere in the Republic. For example, when a mill was needed to grind grain, villagers simply rented the one from a nearby town. Tools, doctors, any service or infrastructure that was absent in town was simply bought or rented out, therefore maximizing the available place for tobacco fields and warehouses. The same borrowed infrastructure logic covered legal documents as well. Cospaia never had a notary of its own, so sales deeds, dowries, or mortgages were drafted in the nearest official registry, Arezzo under Tuscan law or Perugia under papal law. Inside the village, the only one illiterate person, the priest, would keep a ledger with notes regarding baptism, marriages, death, plus a communal account for the traveling doctor. From time to time, he would pen carefully worded letters to Rome or Florence, assuring them that Cospaia had absolutely no involvement in smuggling. Wink, wink. All in all, Cospaia defied every conventional idea of what a country should be and how it should sustain itself. A state with no state structure, thriving on a centuries-old loophole, narcotic plant, and questionable activities. But through a mix of luck, pragmatism, and sheer stubbornness, the Cospaisi didn't just survive. They carved out nearly 400 years of remarkable freedom and amazing level of prosperity. Fortunately or unfortunately, nothing lasts forever, especially not accidental anarcho-tobacco republics. By 1826, the winds of Europe had changed. The era following the French Revolution and Napoleon was all about restoring order, solidifying borders, and ensuring everyone paid their taxes. Cospaia, with its blatant freedom and thriving black market, stuck out like a weed that needs to be plucked. It had become too successful, too free, too weird for the tidy new Europe. Pope Leo XII and Grand Duke Leopold II of Tuscany decided it was finally time to fix their old mistake. There was no invasion, no battle. Diplomats arrived, terms were discussed, the Act of Subjugation was drafted and signed by the Cospaiese elders. The deal was quite simple. Cospaia's territory was divided between Papal States and Tuscany. Its citizens were granted permission to continue growing a limited amount of tobacco, and as compensation for their lost independence, each received a single silver coin from the Pope. The villagers mockingly nicknamed it Il Papete, due to the Pope's face stamped on the coins. And just like that, after 385 years, one of history's most curious cases of accidental, but nonetheless successful freedom vanished. Today, Cospaia is mostly a historical footnote, a peculiar local festival in Umbria, even a brand of cigars. If you'll ever visit the town, you can still find traces of its unique past etched into the landscape and buildings. But the vibrant, defiant, free spirit of the accidental republic was regrettably largely unknown, and today is largely forgotten. And yet, Cospaia's very obscurity may have been its greatest asset. For nearly 4 centuries, it thrived not because it was powerful, but because no one bothered to crush it. Thank you for watching.